Good evening, South Windsor. I'd like to welcome you to the South Windsor Town Council regular meeting of Monday, October 17th at 7 p.m. Could we have the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councillor Evans?
Here.
Councillor Kaboski?
Here.
Councillor Lopez?
Here.
Councillor Paterna?
Here.
Mayor Pendleton?
Present.
Deputy Mayor King?
Here.
Councillor Kozakowski?
Here.
Councillor Leidecker? Here. Councillor Gamble?
Thank you. From what we understand, Councilor Gamble will be here, but he's just running a little late, but he will be here. Under the mayor's remarks, I'd like to welcome Chief of our Fire Department, Chief Cooney, up to the lectern, please. Go on the lower level for me. There we go. Welcome, Chief, to our meeting this evening. I'd like to welcome Chief Cooney here because Chief Cooney has received Citizen of the Year, Business Person of the Year by the South Windsor Chamber of Commerce. The South Windsor Chamber of Commerce had a meeting, their annual meeting, where they changed over their officers, and that's where they announced their Business Person of the Year. I was there that evening, and I have a proclamation for him this evening, and it was pretty phenomenal what everyone was saying about the chief that evening. But before I read the proclamation, I'd like to repeat what I said that evening, and I'd like for the town to hear it, the citizens of our community hear it. First and foremost, I would like to thank, get out of the way, the chief's wife, Christine, and every one of his family members. Every one of his family members, his children. I know as a firefighter family, we make sacrifices. They leave in the middle of dinner. They miss baseball games. They miss events. They miss whatever. That's what happens. That's what we do. And I just want to thank you for the sacrifices that you made with your family. And thank you for supporting him. And in all that he does, I can't even begin to list everything he does, but everything that the chief does, pretty amazing. And the way that the chamber was discussing it, and the way that the chief was talking to me, running the fire department is like a business. So if you'd like to, a little bit, and then I'll go ahead and do the proclamation.
So basically what I said that night was I was accepting the award on behalf of the whole fire department. I might be the ugly face of the fire department, but the reality is we have 120 dedicated members that are extremely talented, that do what they do every day, day in and day out, and I couldn't be more thankful for them. And that's what makes our business successful. We're probably the only business in town trying to put ourselves out of business, because we really don't want to be going to fires or crashes, but that's what we do. But as you move up the food chain and get higher educated, you're really getting away from the firefighting skills and dealing with more business management skills. So it does make sense. I even had to think about it for a while, like fire chief, business person of the year, but it sort of does make sense. As you guys know, we're a grant agency from the town, so as much as we're tied to the town, we're sort of a little separate, so it is like a little island that we manage ourselves. And but I couldn't be more thankful for the membership and my family, obviously. I couldn't do what I do without my family. But the membership is what they do day in and day out. You and I are all extremely blessed with the members that we have. I cannot say enough about them, and your kind words the other night were very much appreciated as well.
Thank you. And one of the things about the chief that you should know is the chief started in the fire department field, literally, baby, maybe before you could walk. Like, seriously, going to fire calls with his dad, right? And learning the fire department when he was little itty bitty. And then he went into the Explorers, correct? And then has moved his way up to chief. So he's been a firefighter here in town for many, how many?
40-something officially.
40-something officially. So there we go with that. So tonight I would like to present you with a proclamation from the town, chief. If you could stand over there, that'd be great. Town of South Windsor proclamation, whereas Chief Kevin Cooney is a 39-year member of the South Windsor Volunteer Fire Department, and whereas Chief Cooney started his career in the Explorer Post and followed in his dad's footsteps by joining the South Windsor Volunteer Fire Department. He rose through the ranks as he's been serving as chief since 2012. And whereas in addition to serving with the South Windsor Volunteer Fire Department, Kevin recently retired after a 25-year career as a fire officer with the Town of Manchester Fire Rescue EMS Department, IAFF Local 1579. And whereas Kevin is the Commander Emeritus of the Connecticut Statewide Honor Guard and also a former Commander of Local Honor Guards with South Windsor and Manchester, and whereas Kevin is well known and respected for his long tenure of line of duty death services throughout New England and supporting the families of brothers and sisters of our fallen. And whereas Kevin holds numerous officer instructor certifications for Connecticut Fire Academy, National Fire Academy, and is also a certified fire marshal. And whereas Kevin was honored in 2013 as a South Windsor Irish Parade Fire Marshal for the Hartford St. Patrick's Day Parade, and serves on the board of the directors for the South Windsor Chamber of Commerce, representing the South Windsor Volunteer Fire Department, and is a lifelong South Windsor resident. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Elizabeth E. Pendleton, Mayor of the Town of South Windsor, acting on behalf of the Town Council and the residents of South Windsor, do hereby thank him for many years of commitment and dedication to our community and congratulate Chief Kevin E. Cooney on being named this year's South Windsor Business Person of the Year. Thank you, Chief. Now moving on to item number 5 is adoption of agenda. Councilor Koboski.
Motion to approve the adoption of the agenda as presented.
Deputy Mayor King.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Before we move to adopt the agenda, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules to add 13J to our agenda, discussion item with the addition of 2 portable to Philip R. Smith Elementary School Board of Education Chair with Craig Zimmerman to be present. I'd like to add that to our agenda, please, 13J.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Councilor Paterna?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wonder if I could, since we have guests with us tonight about this discussion on the portables, wonder if I could ask that we suspend the rules and move 13J immediately following public input.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. And Mr. Maniscalco, I notice we have executive session on our agenda. Do we have any executive session this evening?
No, we do not have any executive sessions this evening.
Thank you. Councilor Evans.
I'd like to make a motion that we add the word none after 17 executive session, since we have none this evening.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. So is there a second on adoption of the agenda as corrected? There was, right?
Yes.
Okay? No.
No, there wasn't.
Okay, now there is, Merrick.
Yeah.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item number 6, communications and reports from the town manager, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With the end of the first quarter, the Finance Department has put together a forecast of where we believe our expenditures will end up this fiscal year. This forecast has shown that due to inflation and the increase in costs, the expenses will be very close to what was budgeted. As you are all well aware, with the largest financial variable being wintertime, we have started to take measures to attempt to keep our budget expenditures in line. Over the last week, I've met with every department head to discuss the situation and review their budgets with them. We've discussed efforts that will be done in an attempt to provide some financial breathing room for us to get through the winter months. I want to make sure that everyone understands that this is not a revenue problem. Our collection rates are up, and we've received all the grants and other forms of revenue that we expected, and in some instances exceeded our projections. What we are working through is an authorized expenditure issue, which we have multiple tools to attempt to work through. In terms of our town hall parking lot project, a large portion of that work is scheduled to start October 24th and last for a little more than a week. Residents and staff should expect major parking alterations and traffic modifications. If you come out during the daytime, you'll already see that a lot of the sidewalks have been worked on and a lot of the curbs have been removed and some of the drainage work has already been done. In terms of the police department women's locker room, that project is well underway with its third phase of demo beginning. This is a technically challenging project since the work needs to get done while allowing the police department to continue its operations. Currently, I'm pleased to report that the project is on time and on budget and was funded with $500,000 through a referendum-approved funds. Our COVID memorial is waiting on a few small pieces to finally complete it. The pavers are all down and the benches are in. Once the last parts are installed, the town will be scheduling an opening event as soon as we can. Also, I'm pleased to report to everybody that the pickleball courts are complete. The Parks and Recreation Department will be hosting a grand opening event on October 24th. I believe that invitation came out just today to all of you as well as myself. So I believe it's 10 o'clock on October 24th. And then lastly, something not in the written report, I did want to recognize both the police department and fire department for attending multiple serious calls over the last couple of weeks, and they've done an exemplary job in doing that, and just take a moment to recognize them for their good work. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Maniscalco? Not hearing any? We'll be moving on. Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco, and thank you to our first responders, to the police department and the fire department for everything that they do. Moving on to public input, item number 7. It will not exceed 30 minutes. Please recognize by me, the speaker shall approach the lectern, give their name and address, and shall avoid personal attacks or imputing or alleging of improper motive to any person. The speaker may address the council on any item that is on the agenda. The speaker shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the council on any agenda item? Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? No? You sure? Yeah. We'll be gentle. Is there any, is that your son? Yeah. Do you want to say something?
My son here is from Scout BSA, Drew Gamble, and he's here for, Drew Gamble. He's in Scouts BSA, and his Scoutmaster, Steve Lewis, is here also to prove that Drew attended a town council meeting for one of his merit badge requirements. So.
There you go. Good job.
And
Keep
Drew is
doing
well
it.
on his
Keep
way
working
to
it.
becoming Eagle Scout probably by this time next year, a little later. So.
Awesome. Keep working on that. You got this. Again, is there anyone? Thank you for speaking to the council. That's okay. Is there anyone else for an agenda item on the? Speak to the council on any agenda item. Anyone from the public? Going third time, is there anyone here who would like to speak to the council on any agenda item? Not seeing any, we'll move on. We are now on item 13J, please. And that is Deputy Mayor King, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 13J, a discussion item concerning the addition of 2 portable, what do we call these? Yeah, 2 portables. Yeah, for Philip R. Smith Elementary. I don't see. Oh, good. And I'd like to ask School Board of Education Chair Craig Zimmerman to present on this, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor King. Good evening, Mr. Zimmerman. How are you?
Good evening. Counselor Gamble, you didn't send your son to a Board of Ed meeting? A little quicker.
You can move that microphone up onto the lectern, which is taller for you. Thank you.
Thank you, especially with the Yankees playing tonight. I really do appreciate the council hearing the board tonight. It's really important that we get the portables in and up and running as soon as possible. Christian Merka, who's our Director of Finance and Operations, is here. I'm betting that she's going to be able to answer any questions that anybody has. If I understand the mayor correctly, there's a public hearing tonight at 8, and then at your next meeting, if you see fit, you'll vote up or down, hopefully up, and approve them. So I'm going to sit down. I'll let Mrs. Tramerka come up to the microphone, and if there's something that she can't answer, either I'll try to answer, or more than likely we'll get you an answer. All right, but we do appreciate you guys putting this on the agenda. Thank the town manager for that. Thank you.
Good evening, Ms. Tramerka. How are you?
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us.
having me. Yes. Good evening. So I am here to, if you've got a question about the portables, I'll do my best to answer a question that you have.
Could you give us a little background about why the Board of Education is requesting 2 portables and the process that you've taken to meet with Capital and to explain it to Capital and so on and so forth?
Sure.
Thank you.
So as you're aware, we have been building 4 elementary schools in our district. And as we do this, as we build schools, we have the ability to build them to our largest enrollment in any projection over an 8-year period. And specifically, when we were building the PRS school, the 8-year projection back in 2017 was that school would be probably have the capacity of 399 students. During the time of construction and the time that students, when the school opened and students moved into that school, certainly enrollment at that time started to shift, and instead of declining enrollment, we started to see increasing enrollment, which I know you are all fully aware of, being one of the, and for a while, the top growing school district in the state of Connecticut. So at this time, right now, even though during construction we were able to add additional classrooms that were not in the original design, we are now at the phase again where we do need to have some additional space in there. The next highest projection for this building is in the school year 2025-2026, where we're projecting 505 students. So we are looking for a little bit more space. In the meantime, I should also say that we've also done things even for this year where we took a reading, I believe it was a reading resource room, which had sort of a large walk-in closet, I want to say, for all the materials. We took a wall down. We did expand that, so we had an additional classroom there as well. But even with doing that, and with the tight squeeze that we have now, and with the upcoming enrollment, we see the need to add 2 portables to that building. Gratefully, gratefully at the same time, we were coming off of a school construction, school capital project, I should say, for the high school facade. And that project was to the tune of almost $750,000 below budget. And so at the last capital meeting, we did ask if we could, we closed that project out, which meant that those funds then went back to the capital non-reoccurring fund. And then we asked at that time if we could have those funds moved from non-reoccurring back to the capital project to fund the PRS portable project. And thus that comes to the town council, goes to a public hearing, and that's how those funds move forward.
Thank you for that explanation and the whole process of what happened, where the money's coming from, and all of that. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Tramerka? Deputy Mayor Gamble. Deputy Mayor Gamble.
Thank you for the promotion.
Yeah, there you go. Give you a promotion. Councilor Gamble.
There you go.
That was a blend between the two of you. No. Councilor Gamble, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening. How are you?
Hi, good evening.
So how many portables will this make since we've built the schools? Will this be like our 5th or 6th, or how many portables is this?
So, gosh, that's a question I'm not sure if I have off the top of my head, but just for PRS.
No. Like around the entire, all four schools. Well,
so this is going to be an estimate, but certainly at PV, we probably, I think we have 8.
wow.
And of course, you know, we'll be moving into our new school in PV shortly, and it will be able to house the students that we have, that we intend to move in there. Certainly we have portables. I believe there are 6 portables at the old Orchard Hill building, which is now a town building. And we do not have any at TE or the high school.
So all of this ballooning of elementary school enrollment is going to have a carry-up effect when it gets to TE and the high school. Like, are we going to be okay when all these kids get to TE? Are we going to have to move the portables down the road to TE, or however that works?
Sure, that's a great question. At this point, we are not anticipating that that's going to be the case. And one of the reasons for that right now, we have 2 reasons for that really, is that the middle school, the TE middle school right now has, I believe it's 5 or 6 classrooms for our pre-K students. And because at the time, when we had to move them out of the new Orchard Hill building, we did have space in TE at the time. So now that that bubble up is coming, it's sort of serendipitous. It's the perfect time that PV is going to open. We're going to be able to take those students out of the TE building, move them into PV, which is where their space is being built for them, and we will be able to take over those classrooms. In addition, a couple years ago, we did also build 4 additional classrooms in the middle of the building of TE, if you recall that, and we are currently looking at a project at TE to potentially expand the cafeteria, because now that we have so many students in there, but we're looking to do that with some internal food service funds. At the high school level, certainly, we don't project that that's going to be a need there, mostly because we've been able to, we're going to be able to use Wapping as a high school annex, which will help tremendously.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Deputy Mayor King?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate you taking the time, Chris, to meet with us. So my question is more so, I saw the JI article that came out just the other day, and I want to kind of address something, only because, just because something's in writing doesn't necessarily make it true, right? So I figured let me just ask the question so as we continue to build, we can be on the same page. So one of the paragraphs says that Eli Terry's construction project topped at $37.4 million, while Philip R. Smith totaled $32.4 million. At the time, Philip R. Smith was projected to enroll 426 students. And then in the beginning of the article, it said that the new 60,700 square foot building was constructed to hold 390. My question is, if the school was projected to enroll 426 students, why did we only construct a building 2 years ago to hold 390?
So what happens is during the state construction project, they only allow you to design and build the building to the highest enrollment in an 8-year projection. So that original projection was done in 2017, and at that time, of the 8 years, the highest projection was 399. So we were only allowed, if that's when we put the application into the state, we could only build it as big as 399. However, what happened during the construction phase of that, and just the anomaly that's happening here in South Windsor with the enrollment growth, Dr. Carter did speak with the school construction program, and I know that one of the ladies there who's been there over 25 years certainly made the comment that in her years she's never seen anything like this. And they did work with Dr. Carter to go ahead and allow additional classrooms to be added into the project kind of mid-project. And honestly, I can't remember if that was 2 classrooms or 3, but because Eli Terry got a few and PRS got a few, and it was a total of 5 additional classrooms that were added mid-cycle. And that's, I think that's an anomaly. I'm not sure that that's happened in any other school construction project. So that's really the reason. And then what happened was in, I want to say in 2000, and then later the projection was done again, and that's when they started to see the climb in enrollment. But when the building was in fact opened, the enrollment was only off by a few students, a small 10 or 12 difference. And at that time, that just seemed like, okay, maybe, the projections were still close. But it wasn't until we had that next projection and we saw the enrollment kind of spiking and started to see the reality of that.
So a follow-up, if I might, Madam
Go
Mayor.
ahead.
So I guess my frustration, numbers aside for a moment, is just the fact that we have a brand new building and we pay people for all these different studies to have these different projections, and now we're putting these portables, which I have no problem with. I get it. But now we're building a whole new, and the school looks amazing. I'm right down the street, 926 Ellington. It's phenomenal. The kids talk about it all the time. I'm like, man, it's a mansion upon mansions. But my fear is being here 2 years from now, and I don't like the portables. If we can afford to build it, we have the council that says, let's put the money in. It looks scrappy to me. And we just did this 2 years ago, and I guess, so my question would be almost similar, and I don't know, I don't want to suggest that that's where we were going with it, but is there a way to make sure that we don't have these additional portables outside of PV in 2 years? Because we are growing. I mean, we know that as a town, we've had enough meetings to discuss it, and you have a council that's willing to say, "Phew, do it." But I don't want to look back in 2 years from now and it'd be like, yeah, it's what we built 2 years ago. It's gorgeous, but yeah, we didn't plan for additional growth.
Sure, those are valid questions for sure. I think that based on the information we have today and what we've seen over the last couple of years of projections, which is what we need to go by, we are seeing that this is going to plateau. And now again, could that change? Of course it could, because it changed for us a couple years ago when we started this process. But we are finally starting to see that plateau in the projections. So I think that's why at this time, with the numbers that we have now and seeing that plateauing in the 2025-2026 year, that if we start to see slight declines, that will certainly help us then. And I think we're basing it on that information.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Evans, if you don't mind, I just want to stick with that 2025-2026 plateau number. What is that?
So that's based on PRS, because that's all the information I have
How
in
much,
front of
what's
me.
the number?
So the 2025-2026 projection, as of last year's projection, is 505. Now, our new projections will come out this November. That's when we usually get them.
Councilor Evans, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, I just wanted to ask, with the portables that are currently at PV, those won't be needed after the school year. My assumption is these are new portables. Have we been leasing those? Do we own those? Is there any cost savings to taking those and moving them to PRS, or is that not going to help us and the better route is to purchase new?
More great questions. So we asked all of those same questions as well. So many of the portables there, the majority of them are very, very old and don't have the value to move forward. However, we did just in the last couple of years put on 6 new portables to PV. So those aren't, those were, I don't believe we bought those new. I believe those were used. They were refurbished to fit that area. We did look into that, and one, I believe it was due to the age and just the configuration, is they weren't going to work in where we needed them to. And really, it's not even the portable itself that's very costly, it's the move of the portable and the connection of the portable. So even if we used those particular ones, it's not, even if it was in perfect condition, the cost savings wouldn't be what you would deem it to be, because it's quite a bit for the connection. And I also wanted to address something for Mr. King, Councilor King. Also, just so you know, the PRS portable, the location of that portable will be behind the building. So we are fully aware of the aesthetics of our new buildings, and we too, wouldn't want that portable, front and center. So we do have a location that it will be behind the building. We anticipate you probably won't be able to see that from the road.
Thank you.
Councilor Kozakowski?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So these portable classrooms, they imply that they're temporary, right? What's kind of the term of life for these classrooms?
Sure. So because of the projection that we're looking at, we are anticipating on this one perhaps a 9-year life to get us back down to when the projection will come back down to the right size of the building for the enrollment in that building.
9 years, okay. So in 9 years, you expect them to be able to be removed if unused. Could they be moved to another location?
So again, I think it's the same question that Councilor Evans asked. It depends on if we have a further need, which right now we don't project that we have, or we do anticipate leasing them and not purchasing, so we'd have to talk with them about an additional lease. What would the cost be to move them? What would the cost be to reconfigure them to whatever other need we would have? But yes, it's always a possibility.
Okay, so they're going to be leased. Okay, I missed that.
Yes.
So there's no way to recoup any of the cost.
So we did look at both ways to go about it, and there really wasn't a big difference between the two, really because of the length of them, and just because the value isn't really in the portable itself. It's in that move cost is so expensive. So I talked with the finance director from the town as well, and we talked about it. I talked about it with Dr. Carter, and it just didn't seem like that it was the right move to go ahead with the purchase, but the lease was the better option.
Okay, so since it sounds like you thought of everything, did you think about adding to the building again?
So we definitely had those discussions. You know, I couldn't give you an estimate of what that would cost, but certainly it would be far more than what we're doing now, what we intend to pay for this. And, you know, that's certainly a much larger conversation. Because we don't see this as a need for a permanent structure, we do see it as a 9-year finite item. I think the intention was that we wouldn't go ahead and ask for the taxpayers to fund something like that if it wasn't needed in our really long-term view.
Okay, last question. If it's more than 9 years, how long will this still be a comfortable, usable structure?
Well, I couldn't answer that for sure, but you know, the portables at Orchard Hill, I understand, have been there for 20-ish years, and I believe those were bought used. So I think they can last with tender love and care probably longer than we think they should.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Councilor Paterno.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Schmerker, for coming tonight. 2 quick questions. I think everyone on the council is clear on some of the facts, but I think for people watching tonight. So number 1 is, this is not a new allocation. This was money that was already allocated in the budget for the high school project, and then this is money saved from that project and is being moved to this new portable
Correct.
project. Okay.
Correct.
And then secondly, I think in the capital projects, it was unanimous vote to support this project.
You're correct. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Chamerka, I just have a question. You said that Philip R. Smith was built for $395?
I think it's $399.
$399? That's what I originally wrote, and then you said $395. Okay, $399, and then it's gonna go up to $505. Can you please tell me how 2 portables is gonna help with 106 students?
So I believe that $399 number was the original building number prior to them adding the additional classrooms
Got
during
it.
construction phase.
So then
And
it went to 4 something.
Right, and then in addition, I was saying this year, we changed that 1 resource room into a classroom as well.
Right, okay, I see. Because the math wasn't adding up.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna question the Board of Ed on math, no. Especially you. You're the math wizard from over there. Is there any other questions for Ms. Chamerka? Not seeing any. Thank you very much for coming this evening and explaining this, and so the public can hear. And we do have a public hearing at 8 o'clock to address this.
Thank you,
so
Madam Mayor
much.
and council members and Mr. Maniscalco. Thank you.
And now moving on to item number 8 is adoption of minutes of previous meeting. Councilor Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Approval of October 3rd, 2022 Town Council meeting minutes. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the minutes of the regular Town Council meeting of October 3rd, 2022.
Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion, deletion, corrections, additions? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I'm sorry, you're abstaining? Okay, and none opposed, and any abstention? Are you abstaining? Okay, so we have a roll call, please?
Counselor Evans,
Yes.
Counselor Kaboski,
Yes.
Counselor Lopez,
No.
Counselor Paterna,
Yes.
Mayor Pendleton,
No, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Counselor Lopez is an abstention, not a no, because he wasn't here, correct? You were not here? Okay, we'll help you out,
I
don't
was
worry.
testing everybody to see if you were awake.
Can you just say the word abstain, please?
Abstain.
Thank you. We'll get it, well, I know, we'll get it together eventually.
okay, from the beginning, Counselor Evans,
Yes.
Counselor Kaboski,
Yes.
Counselor Paterna,
Yes.
Mayor Pendleton,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor King. Yes. Counselor Kozakowski,
Yes.
Counselor Gamble,
Yes.
and Counselor Leidecker.
Abstain.
And ask Counselor, say it again, his name, please. Counselor Lopez, please, say his name.
Counselor Lopez,
Abstain.
Thank you. So it should be 7 yes, 2 abstentions? Is that
Yes.
correct?
Correct.
Thank you. So with that roll call, the motion carries. Andy, do you have something?
No.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
And now moving on to item 9, which is communications from liaisons, officers, and boards directly responsible to the council, please. Is there anyone from liaisons that would like to report on any meetings? Councilor Evans.
Thank you. I just wanted to report on the Park and Rec Commission. They met last week, and the plan is to look at the master plan and update it. They are planning to put out a survey to the community asking about the community's wants and needs for our town and the future of the Park and Rec department. So that they are going to start working on that survey. The community has changed since the last one has done. It's been many years. So the thought is that the information may have changed, and so it's important to get that information so that they can work on the master plan and really address the needs and wants of South Windsor.
Thank you,
residents.
Councilor Evans. Was that your only report tonight?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Kabasky?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Following up on our earlier discussion, I attended the Public Building Commission meeting last week. One of the items mentioned was that right now, the Pleasant Valley School is currently right-sized for the enrollment projections as they stand now. This is after the building of a new classroom on the first floor, and that classroom is being built to support a possible second classroom above it. Right now, there's no plans to put that on there, but it is being built and prepped for that. The other item that was brought up that I wanted to mention was there were some issues over there with erosion due to the rainfall that we've had. They've been addressing that, and right now the professionals feel we are in good shape to handle any future rain and not see any more erosion.
Thank you, Councilor Kabasky. Does anyone else have any other reports? Councilor Merrick? Councilor Kozakowski, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you,
Councilor
Madam
Merrick.
Mayor.
Sorry.
I just want to briefly report that the Planning and Zoning Commission held a special meeting last Tuesday where the purpose of the meeting was to hold interviews for consulting firms that are looking to help South Windsor with the drafting of the newest update of the Plan of Conservation Development. The commission held 3 interviews. 2 of the applicants, if I may, were collaborative teams, and one was an individual firm. And I think they had great presentations, great questions from the Planning and Zoning Commission, and just a great general theme from across all three groups were focusing on sustainability and resiliency in South Windsor. So. The Planning and Zoning Commission, as I understand it, is going to hold an executive session next week to deliberate and hopefully come up with our consultants for the POCD. So thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Kozakowski. Councilor Campbell?
I don't have a report, Madam Mayor, but can I ask a question about someone else's report?
I bet you could. Yeah, go ahead.
Councilor Kabasky, can you explain about the rain issue and what that was about? Like, was there a catch basin? Like, what was that issue?
I guess there were some issues over there where with the heavy rainfall, they were seeing some land erosion, and I believe they said some of it was going into one of the neighbor's yard as well. So they've addressed that. That was early on, and they've taken precautions now to stop that from happening going forward.
And that was a PVC issue?
Yes, it was related to PV school. So it was
PV, okay.
Yes, in the building process.
Gotcha, now I understand what the connection is. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Maniscalco, please.
I was just going to follow up on that. So my understanding is part of the issue with the Pleasant Valley School site is that the water table is actually high in that area, and they've hit a number of, for lack of a better term, kind of like springs in some of the areas, particularly where they have some of the drainage swales and other things. So there's not as much capacity to collect some of the stormwater off of that site. So as a result, they brought in some specialists to come in and put some other remediative efforts in an effort to make sure that whatever water is on the site stays on the site.
So was it a permanent fix, or was it like a one-time thing for this one rain? Like what's
So
like a long-term?
I think what's going to happen is so some of the drainage structure, so with a project like this that's that large, it occurs in phases, right? So with the phase that they've got done now for the drainage and the site portion that is opened, the drainage that's there essentially is not large enough to hold the capacity of what the site is developing. Once the whole project is done, based upon the plans, it should be able to hold that capacity, at least from the meeting that I attended. I think what they're going to be doing is some additional drainage on site, kind of jumping into some of those other outer phases, so those will be more permanent solutions as it moves forward. That's my understanding.
Obviously, Mr. Maniscalco has been in far more meetings about this than I have, so I'm going to follow his lead.
You good now? Okay, you're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco and councilors. Moving on to the consent agenda, 11A, please. Councilor Gamble.
All right. Did we do reports from committees?
Huh?
Did we do reports from committees?
Wait a minute, did I miss something there?
Yeah, it's me, right? You said,
Oh, reports from committees, I apologize. Item number 10, reports from committees, please. Is there any reports from any committees, There you go, Councilor Gamble, thank you. I know. Okay, Councilor Paterno.
thank you, Madam Mayor. Just report on the Energy Committee. We are looking into 3 items, really. We're looking into EV charging stations in town, so we're looking at what the state offers in grant money and reimbursement, and also where those locations should be. Secondly, I think with the next virtual net metering project that is due to come online in January, we will be the first town in the state to have all town buildings, including school buildings, have their electricity generated by renewable energy sources.
Awesome.
So first in the state, January 23, we hope. And also, Mr. Lewis is here tonight. We'll take his nomination later on, but we're going to nominate a new person for the committee. There's 2 vacancies, so if you know of anyone else who's interested in serving, please let me know. Thank you.
And I believe, thank you, Councilor Paterno, but I believe the first, or the year that we were all the buildings were supposed to be on was 2025. Was it not? We're to like 2 years ahead of the game. That's what I thought. Thank you. Okay, now moving on to item, yes, Deputy Mayor King?
Yeah, just real quick, if I can follow Councilor Gamble's, what he kind of put out there as far as questioning the reports. I'm wondering, as we're talking about energy and building these, what do you call them? Charging stations. Have we considered building them at our new schools?
We haven't determined the sites yet, but the schools are certainly one of the locations we're looking at, yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor King. Okay, moving on to item 11A, Councilor Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Motion to approve items 11A1 through 11A3 as a first reading on the consent agenda.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Moving on to 11B, second reading. There is none. 11C, there is none for miscellaneous. 12 is unfinished business. There is none. Item 13A, Councilor Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 13A, resolution approving a refund of taxes to 24 South Windsor taxpayers. The total of said refunds being $12,780.44. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves a refund of taxes to 24 South Windsor taxpayers. The total of said refunds being $12,780.44, and as more fully described on attached Exhibit A.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Councilor Evans, 13B, please.
13B, review resolution pursuant to Section 8-24 of the Connecticut General Statutes referring proposed improvements to Nevers Park for the addition of a splash pad to the South Windsor Planning and Zoning Commission. Whereas any plan to improve park lands owned by the town must first be submitted to the South Windsor Planning and Zoning Commission for a report pursuant to Section 8-24 of the Connecticut General Statutes. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby refers the proposed improvements of Nevers Park for the addition of a splash pad to the South Windsor Planning and Zoning Commission pursuant to Section 8-24 of the Connecticut General Statutes.
Is there a second? Mr. Maniscalco, would you like to address this, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I think, as all of you know, we're in the process of putting together our splash pad project, which the Rotary Club has thankfully donated to, as well as the town's been able to put together a match to that. As a part of getting that project moving forward, in an effort, anytime we do any large work in our municipal property that changes it in any substantive manner, we do need to bring that in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission for an 824 review, and then they basically issue a report. Basically, what they're looking to do is make sure that the changes are in accordance with the plan of conservation and development for the town. So, seeing as this is a park use, the splash pad fits with that park use. I don't think there should be any issues, but we'll see where it goes from there.
Councilor Campbell, please.
Just one question. Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. I thought that this was like a done deal, and we had been talking about this months ago, like it was gonna, like construction was starting soon or something like that. This feels like this is like another thing that I didn't see was coming with this aspect of it. I thought
Well,
we
we
were,
can't,
like,
yeah, so we couldn't go to planning and zoning until we actually had designs done. So, right, so once we get the money in place and we get the contracts put together, then they start the designs. Once the designs are done, then we can go to planning and zoning, and then we get going with construction. So, I mean, it would be nice to be able to have just run into the construction piece of it, but, you know.
all right,
Yeah,
okay.
there's a process we have to follow.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Item 13C, Councilor Kozakowski, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 13C, resolution authorizing town manager to enter into an agreement with the State of Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. Whereas effective July 1st, 2022, and per Public Act 22-118, the town of South Windsor has been awarded $100,000 in ARPA funds granted by DEEP to fund a South Windsor Riverfront Linear Park study and planning, and whereas these funds must be obligated by December 31st, 2024, and expended by December 31st, 2026, and whereas the South Windsor Town Council authorizes the Parks and Recreation Department to conduct a feasibility study on creating a new linear park that begins at 220 Scantic Road and ends at the current Vibert Road Linear Park to allow for residents to park their car and put a canoe or kayak into the Scantic River, allowing people to paddle to the Connecticut River and exit at the Vibert Road Linear Park. And whereas, be it resolved that the town of South Windsor may enter into with and deliver to the State of Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection any and all documents which it deems necessary or appropriate for a grant of $100,000 for the South Windsor Riverfront Linear Park study and planning at 220 Scantic Road and the Vibert Road Linear Park. And be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby authorizes Michael Maniscalco, Town Manager, to sign, execute, and deliver any and all agreements and documents necessary on behalf of the town of South Windsor and perform all acts and things which he deems to be necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents. Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion? Mr. Maniscalco, would you like to help us out here?
Sure. So the town received a grant from the state of Connecticut, I think through the help of Senator Anwar through the Bond Commission, basically to do a study of the linear park over off of Vibert Road, as well as connecting that to the Scantic River by creating a blue way down the Scantic River and the Connecticut River for people to do both canoes, kayaks, and that kind of activity. So in an effort to do that study, the state of Connecticut, whenever you get grants of this nature, has requirements that the council pass a resolution authorizing myself to enter into the agreements associated with that. So that's what we're looking for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Does anyone Questions of Mr. Maniscalco? Councilor Paterno?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, Mr. Maniscalco, when you say Scantic River, is it the mouth of the Scantic River at the Connecticut, or is it further up in that new piece of property?
On the new piece of property that the town acquired.
So that 19 acres on the Scantic River would be the starting point.
Correct. That's the
Great.
hope, is that that would be the starting point,
Great.
or if you want to go upriver, the ending point.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions?
Madam Mayor.
Councilor Kozakowski?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So in this feasibility study, is there going to be any land that's held in private ownership as part of, that needs to be planned for to accommodate this?
No, that's not, the plan is to not try to acquire any additional land. We kind of have property at the beginning, we have property at the end already. So the idea is to be able to just start at one spot, traverse through the waterways to the other.
Okay, so this would only be impacting town land or possibly state land for the
Correct.
riverfront? Okay,
Correct.
thanks.
Any other questions? Mr. Maniscalco, the way that I'm reading this and knowing the area, this is basically, in the third paragraph, is stating that they can put in a kayak at 220 Skinnick Road or a boat or whatever they so choose. Not a boat, but a canoe or a kayak. They can paddle down the Skinnick to the Connecticut River, head on down on the Connecticut River to Vibert Road and get out at Vibert Road Linear Park. That's what this is saying in that third paragraph?
That's the plan for this study, yes.
Okay, all right. That's what I was wondering. And if I could make a friendly amendment just to the top where it says resolution authorizing town manager to enter into, if we could identify the town manager's name, Town Manager Michael Maniscalco, if you could, please, if that's acceptable. Thank you.
Yes, it is.
Okay, all those in favor? Oh, Andy, question? Councilor Paterno?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, thank you. One last question on the Scantic River site. Will there be docks and facilities built as part of this to allow people to get their canoes and kayaks in?
Well, I mean, this is basically a study, so it wouldn't build those things, but I
Right.
would hope that the study would evaluate that and include it within the, I mean, the hope is to create a nice park location that people are gonna, one, wanna go to, but two,
Right.
also wanna use and maybe keep their boats at and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Kozakowski?
Thank you. Just one more question. If we have the funds, that's great. Do we have a consultant on board to help with this plan, or what's the process to bring somebody aboard?
Well, so once we get this, I mean, we just kind of worked our way through the DEEP process. We'll probably enter into some type of an agreement with DEEP for the whole grant process, and that agreement will probably outline what our RFP requirements and procurement requirements are going to be. So based upon what that is, then we'll have to I'm guessing, just because it is a state, we'll probably have to do some type of an RFP for a consultant.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. 13D, Councilor Lydecker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution accepting the Old Orchard Hill School to temporarily house the Parks and Recreation Department and formally start the process of moving the Parks and Recreation Department to Old Orchard Hill and pursuant to Section 8-24 of the Connecticut General Statutes, referring said plan to the Planning and Zoning Commission for review. Whereas the town had leased Wapping School from the Board of Education to house Parks and Recreation, and whereas the Board of Education needs Wapping School to house an increase in students at the high school, and whereas the town has an immediate need to temporarily relocate the Parks and Recreation and Facilities Department to the Old Orchard Hill School, and whereas pursuant to Section 8-24 of the Connecticut General Statutes, changes in use of a municipal facility require a referral to the Planning and Zoning Commission for review and a report. Be it resolved that the Town Council hereby approves the Old Orchard Hill School to temporarily house the Parks and Recreation and Facilities Department and formally begin the process of relocating both departments to the Old Orchard Hill School. And be it further resolved, the Town Council directs Town Manager Michael Maniscalco to submit a request to the South Windsor Planning and Zoning Commission for a report pursuant to Section 8-24 of the Connecticut General Statutes.
Thank you. It's Counselor Evans who seconded. Is there any discussion? Any questions? Mr. Maniscalco, would you like to speak about this?
Well, I think as it was alluded to a little earlier by Ms. Shamarka, the Board of Education has passed a resolution basically giving Old Orchard Hill School back to the town. With the Board of Ed's need for Wapping School to house students from the high school, we have an immediate need for a location to house both our Parks and Recreation Department as well as our Facilities Department. So essentially the resolution that's in front of you, first of all, is sending a request over to the Planning and Zoning Commission for them to do an 824 referral. Since it's a change of use of a municipal facility, they're required to do that. And then second of all, this is basically accepting and moving that department and starting that process moving forward as we move the different departments. I believe the Facilities Department, if we move forward with this, would be in place sometime around January, which the Board of Ed desperately needs them to be, so they could start the renovations to that portion of Wapping School that the Facilities Department currently houses. And then I believe the Parks and Recreation Department would be moved into Old Orchard Hill sometime at the end of next summer, towards the end of next summer, so before the school year.
Thank you. Counselor Kozakowski.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm a little confused of what this resolution is for. Is it for accepting Orchard Hill to be the temporary parks, or is it to refer it to Planning and Zoning Commission?
Both. So you're accepting the idea that you're going to be moving the department there, and then you're referring it to the 824 to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So if
We're
we're
trying
going
to accomplish both.
if the council votes to accept it now, why bother bringing it to Planning and Zoning Commission for a report?
It's required to go there for an 824 review.
So I would think that we'd want to hear their report first before we vote to accept it. I would think, I don't know how the other councilors would feel about that.
And I would think the flip side would be that if you didn't have plans to move it there, you wouldn't be requesting the 824. So I mean, it's kind of a chicken and egg scenario how we want to go about it, but it's the council's pleasure, however you'd want to move forward.
Well, may I ask,
Please.
Councilor Kozakowski, are you seeking to just kind of split this resolution into two? And one, we're not talking about moving facilities or Park and Rec, but solely just keep in the language to refer it for the 824, and then when that comes back to us, then have a second resolution to potentially move the departments?
I think that seems like a logical process. Why would we be soliciting a report if we have no intent to need it for this, for our review, our resolution? Do we want to amend the resolution, or?
Well, that's
Or
up
do
to
you wanna
you.
hear
How do
one?
you want it, how do you want to move forward, Counselor Kozakowski? May I ask, hang on, let me ask Mr. Counselor Paterna if he has questions about this. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just concerned about the timeline here in terms of when the Park and Rec Department has to start moving, because the Board of Ed is kind of right behind them there, waiting to get in a Wapping school. So I'm nervous about the timeline if we delay this. to throw
Yeah,
off.
the work has to actually already, I mean, a lot of the planning work has already started.
Yeah.
And physical work for moving facilities over there has got to get moving pretty soon, so.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Is there one sentence, Counselor Gamble?
I'm sorry, no. Still reading.
I'm sorry. Counselor Kozakowski, or Counselor Lidecker, I'm sorry.
I mean, I have separate questions for Mr. Maniscalco, so I'll let us finish Counselor Kozakowski's thought process first, if there's specific areas of this resolution he wants removed at this time.
Well, I guess for the sake of completeness, I'll propose an amendment to this resolution, and which would be voted on, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just think out of due process, I don't know if we, hold on. If we motion to amend the resolution,
Can we get back to you on that? Can we suspend the meeting at this time to go into our public hearing? It is 8 o'clock.
yes.
Thank you.
Withdraw my motion.
For now, right? We'll get back to you. Okay. So I'd like to move into the public hearing at 8 o'clock. If we could have the clerk of the council, please, or I'd like to suspend the meeting to move into the public hearing. The notice, please, for the public hearing.
To be published in the Journal Enquirer, October 7th, 2022. Legal ad, Town of South Windsor. Notice is hereby given that the South Windsor Town Council has set Monday, October 17th, 2022 at 8 p.m. in the council chambers of the South Windsor Town Hall, 1540 Sullivan Avenue, South Windsor, Connecticut, as the time and place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on the transfer of $749,556 from the non-recurring capital account to fund 2 portables at Philip R. Smith Elementary School, dated at South Windsor, Connecticut on the 7th day of October 2022, attested by Amanda Poma.
Thank you, Amanda. If there's anyone here that would like to speak at the public hearing, you can come up to the lectern and state your name and any comments that you may have about the public hearing to receive the funding for the portables. And if you just could put on the microphone, please.
Thank you. Alan Cavagnaro, 83 Pine Up Drive. Just want to talk in favor of the portables at PRS. It means dearly to me since I attended PRS long ago. I've actually had classes in portables formally that were, again, long ago, late 2000s, early 2010s. I know it's not a perfect scenario and situation, but at the same time, my education was not detracted from the fact that we had portables. I still remember having music classes with Miss McNulty and portables in the music wing of PRS. So all I ask is that, you know, I hope vote in favor and affirmative of having portables for PRS. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak concerning the public hearing on the portables for Philip R. Smith? It's twice and third time. Is there anyone that would like to speak at the public hearing for the portables for Philip R. Smith? Not seeing anyone, I will close the public hearing at this time, and I will ask for a straw vote for, which is normally what we do. It's not scientific, and it's not to hold anyone here in legal terms or anything, but all those in favor for the portables for Philip R. Smith, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Not seeing any, thank you. So that was a 3-0. Thank you, and now the public hearing is closed. And we will go back to Councilor Kozakowski, who had the floor concerning 13D, concerning Orchard Hill. Councilor Kozakowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I want to hold off on, because I have more questions before I suggest anything else. So if Councilor Leidecker wants to ask her questions.
Sure, Councilor Leidecker, please.
Thank you. May I steal a question that you may be asking? Mr. Maniscalco, if we split this resolution, what is, because I understand the timeline, the movement of January for facilities. What is the turnaround for us to submit this to Planning and Zoning for an 824, for them to come back to us with a report, and then for us to put this back on as a resolution to move facilities and/or Parks and Rec?
If they have a meeting next week that we could get on the agenda for, I think it would be next week, and then your meeting's the week after, I believe. So that would be an additional,
2 weeks.
I don't know, 2 weeks, something like that.
So essentially by our November, one of our November meetings, maybe the end of November, we could have this approved, just separating it in 2, and that doesn't hold up the move in January.
I didn't say that. I'm not 100% sure of all the work that has to go in to get everybody in January. I mean, we may actually be already starting some of that work in the next week or so.
and you can't physically start moving anybody until we've agreed and passed this
Well, I
resolution?
could.
So then I guess
Safer if you
I'm not
agree.
understanding, like, then what's the issue of splitting the resolution? If we can move them anyway, but we can still split it to get that 824 to see what it says, I mean, we're not really delaying the process by splitting the resolution, are we?
Well, I mean, so I could go and move the department there, right? But as a town manager, it's a whole lot safer for me to make that move with the authority and the approval and consent and everybody's nod and agreement that, yeah, that's what we would like to do. So without that, I'm gonna take much more cautious steps moving forward, right? Does that make sense to you?
It does, but as the town manager, what is the time frame to move the department? I mean, does it take 2 weeks? Does it take 2 months? Does it take 4 months? Like, what is, I mean, I guess I'm trying to figure out if we split this, what are we losing? And can we still move the department so the board can have the building as necessary, or wherever it kind of falls out? What's the timeline to move them?
Well, I know that there's not internet in the building at this red hot moment, so I know it needs to be rewired. I know a lot of the heavier equipment from, actually, so like in terms of the internet, the fiber needs to actually get installed next week. If you want to get down to that nitty gritty. I know a lot of the other equipment that the facilities department has is not all that easy to move. So that may take them some additional time because they need to plan that in with their other work schedules that are going on with other buildings and other maintenance things around the town. So there's a number of moving parts to it that it's not so easy to just say, you know, if they get delayed a couple weeks, we have to also plan out the phone system that has to be over there, some of those other things, so.
Okay, understood. And then, since you kind of talked a little bit about some of what needs to be done to the building, what renovations need to be done for Park and Rec to safely be housed in there and offering classes? And do you know a cost estimate for that at this time?
No, that's a whole other can of worms. I mean, that's a whole lot bigger because you're talking about running a program that has the public come into the building. So right now, we've set aside $200,000 in capital to help with the move. That does not probably even come close to handling everything that actually has to go on in there. I think as we heard at the most recent quad board meeting, the Board of Ed is looking for the town to potentially house a program for adults with disabilities. In order to be able to house those individuals, there's some pretty significant, or to house that program, not those individuals, but to house that program, there's some pretty significant renovations that need to occur in some of those classrooms. We also have to look at what is it going to take to move certain programs for Park and Rec from Wapping School over there. So I know that there's a specific type of gym floor that they installed in one of the rooms for yoga classes, for example. So they got to figure out how they're going to move that. There's movement of other AV equipment that has to get moved over there. There's other office equipment that has to get moved. So it's not, it's going to be a whole lot more difficult, to be very honest. Also, there's accessibility issues if the program, certain programs have to be housed on certain floors. So that's what the staff are currently working on right now to make sure that as effectively as possible, we're putting the programs that have accessibility needs on floors that are accessible to make it as clear. We may be coming back and talking to you about putting an elevator in or some type of a stair glide type system, or, I mean, there's a whole laundry list of things that may happen. We also are aware that there's asbestos in the building. There's been some conversations about there's potentially mold in the building. The building currently runs off of oil, so we need to look at the heating system. There is no air conditioning system in the building. which will make summer programs interesting. So it's going to be work.
Thank you.
Counselor Kozakowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you can you explain the relationship between the town and the Board of Education as it relates to the ownership of this building?
So, the easiest way to explain schools is the Board of Ed is responsible for the programs that go on within the schools, the maintenance of those school buildings, and all of those things while they're a school. At this point, the Board of Ed has passed a resolution saying we no longer need this as a school. We're going to be giving it back to the town as a town, so it is a town building. It's always been considered a town building, but we don't have that need for it to be a school building. So essentially this building would, because they no longer need it, is a town building. It will be going to planning and zoning, would be requesting the use of it to change for parks and recreation. And I think associated with that, I think it's important, just as a side caveat, to note that we're only talking temporary. Because if we do something permanent in this building, there's a whole other laundry list beyond some of the things that I've talked about that we need to then take into account. So does that kind of answer it?
Yeah, no, that's good. And just to follow up to that, so there is no action needed by the council to accept the building back or anything like that?
I don't think you really get a choice because it is already a town asset, essentially. It's considered a town asset, even though the Board of Ed is the one that is taking care of it and doing all those sorts of things with it. They insure it while it's a school. If they're saying it's no longer a school, it's town property. So.
Okay, and so this 824 review, it's for strictly the use?
Strictly the use.
Okay, because for the use, are there any modifications that are going to be done to the outside of the building? Outside of the building, like parking or playgrounds or fields or anything like that?
Not yet at this time. I mean, there might be. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, because I'm not sure that the use necessitates an 824 review.
That's what I was gonna say.
Do you have 820? You got it up? It'd be
You have the
in the first.
definition of 824?
All right, so reading from Connecticut General Statutes 8-24, no municipal agency or legislative body, who's an education for everybody here, thank you. No legislative body shall locate, accept, abandon, widen, narrow, or extend any street, bridge, parkway, or other public way, locate, relocate, substantially improve, acquire land, abandon, sell, parks, playgrounds, schools, or other municipally owned property. So we're not abandoning or acquiring. It's not substantially improving because it's just interior work. Locate or extend any public utilities. All right, so it's that second clause. Mr. Maniscalco, in your opinion, does this endeavor, relocating temporarily to Orchard Hill School, qualify as a locate, relocate, substantially improve, acquire, for abandon, sell, or lease any school or other municipally owned property, public building?
Yes, and in all honesty, the town, unfortunately, historically, has bypassed the 824 process related to another instance and found itself in legal proceedings that it lost, in all honesty, and the town had to go back and do an 824 review. So rather than find ourselves in a similar situation and say that we did not learn from our history, I'd rather say we learned from our history, did it.
Okay. All right, so I think further in that statute, it says that legislative body should obtain a report from the Planning and Zoning Commission for consideration. So I really think that we really need to separate this resolution into a referral to Planning and Zoning Commission for 824 review now, and then in 2 weeks, come back for a resolution accepting
Counselor
accepting
Kozakowski,
with the
can you
report.
tell me where in this paragraph, in this resolution, what wording that you would like to get rid of that's saying that we have two things happening here? The only thing I can say is accepting the old Orchard Hill School, the word accepting, and then the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, be it resolved piece of things may be in question, but other than that, it all talks about sending it over, be it further resolved, that we're requesting the 824.
Yes, because it says resolution accepting the old Orchard Hills School to temporarily house. I would think a modification, this isn't my motion, but just
Right, well, you can talk it
brainstorming,
through.
resolution referring the Orchard Hills School to temporarily house to the Planning Zoning Commission for a 24 review.
Okay, and then we'll stick with just going to the 824 review.
Yep.
Because if you look at the whole resolution.
Yeah, they're meshed and they need to be.
I understand that, but there's only one paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, be it resolved, that it talks about the town council hereby approves the old Orchard Hill to temporary house the park and recreation. Okay, so if we remove that, be it resolved, then it's strictly talking about the 824.
Yep.
And I understand your point, and then come back in November, and we'll gladly accept their report and accept the school and move them over and all that good stuff. You
Yes.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you want to take out the
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so motion to amend the resolution to number 1, amend the heading where it says accept the Orchard Hill School, remove that to refer review of that to the Planning Zoning Commission, 824 review. I'm sure our clerk can put it more eloquently.
That's fine.
But then also amend it to remove the first be it resolved paragraph.
If I may, though, in the heading, don't we also need to remove formally start the process of moving the Park and Rec Department to Old Orchard Hill? Shouldn't it just be resolution referring the Old Orchard Hill School to temporarily house the Parks and Recreation Department pursuant to section 824? Because I don't think we want to approve
Right.
right now moving.
You're correct, Counselor Lydecker.
Okay.
So amend that motion to that effect.
That's fine. You can still. Okay,
That's my motion.
okay. Are we good, Amanda? Do you know what we're doing? Okay, thank you. So that's a friendly amendment, Counselor Paterna?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'm still concerned about the timeline. I think we're being overly optimistic if we think in 2 weeks this is going to come back to us from planning and zoning. They're right in the middle of settling or making a decision on who will direct their plan of conservation and development. We may not even get on the agenda with this 824 for the next meeting. So we could be looking at December, not in 2 weeks. So that's what I'm concerned about. And I think if we talk about changing some of the wording, we could say formally start necessary preparation for Parks and Rec to move, and not say the process of moving. Can we do that?
Formally start the preparations for the move?
Preparation. So we've got to
that way
get,
we can
we've
get
got to
them all-
get things, the plan has to be in place, whether we move tomorrow or December 1st, the plan has to be in place. Would that
I guess I could
Cover it.
be fine with that as long as we're not expending too much town resources in that preparation, dollars, spending money that we don't know that with confidence that we can spend, that it's not going to waste.
So I hate to pose this question. I mean, the Park and Rec Facilities Planning Committee has come to the conclusion that this is the location for the Parks and Rec Department. If the report comes back from Planning and Zoning negative, where will we house those departments then?
That was my question, where we're going to put Park and Rec.
Because I don't have an
MB,
answer.
we have
I
a
don't have an
committee for
answer to
that.
that.
Don't look at you, okay.
I don't have an answer to that question.
Nobody has an answer to that question. That was
So
my
I don't-
plan.
I'm just trying to follow the processes
Yeah.
spelled out in our council rules and the state of Connecticut.
I think,
general statutes,
unfortunately,
so.
the big challenge that we're faced with is moving a department like this and doing a project like this is probably something that should take years. And unfortunately, due to the need of the school, we're not left with years. We're left with months. you know, the Board of Ed just passed this resolution at, I believe, last month's meeting. So, you know, now you couldn't take any action or do anything until now. So, you know, unfortunately, we're stuck a little bit behind the 8 ball, for lack of a better term.
Councilor Kozakowski, do you accept Councilor Paterno's suggestion with the, Councilor Paterno, please say that again.
So we formally start the necessary preparation for moving forward in the recreation department. So we're not in the process. We're not saying pull the truck up to the back of the door here.
Okay, I'll accept it.
Thank you.
Same thing with the bottom of that 4th paragraph, begin the process, begin the preparation for moving both departments. So both preparation, not doing the physical move yet.
At the 4th whereas?
Yeah.
You got to put your microphone on. Oh.
I apologize. I'm saying make it in the 4th paragraph, make it preparation to move both departments to the Orchard Hill School. So we're not saying pull the trucks up to the back door, but we're saying get all the preparation and the planning done. Meanwhile, it's being sent to planning and zoning for the 824.
To be,
Councilor Gamble?
again, to be fair, I mean, we had the report at our last meeting from the Parks and Rec Planning Facilities Committee, and they came and they said they voted 5-4, and at that point, I thought that's when we would have said, okay, we hear you, thank you for your time and all your effort and all your work for the last 7 or 8 months. We now would like to, you know, act on that, and we didn't. So I don't know why I'm saying this, but it just seemed like we're sticking it in now as part of this 824 thing. So it is a bit confusing to me that we are combining these and trying to wordsmith it while you're already, you know, having Wi-Fi installed and fiber and all that kind of stuff. It just feels like, you know, we're, I don't want to say rubber stamping it, but the work is happening, right? The committee approved it. We said, great, but we didn't actually vote on it, that we wanted to do it. So we have like 4 different things going on, all trying to get at the same thing, but we're all trying to follow the right process. So it's a little disjointed to me.
Deputy Mayor King.
So the only question I have is what's the end game? Because every once in a while, in government, in life, we have to make certain decisions. I admit, we just heard that we're taking something from years, and I agree with Councilor Gamble, that, but we're taking something from years to months, and I actually agree with you as well, that I understand we want to make sure that we get it right, but to what end? What do we, I get you, 100%. But what do we gain or lose if we do these amendments the way that everybody's worded? Like, what's the end game?
A fair and transparent process.
Okay, so that's what we're doing right now. So as long as we're doing this piece, then we're good. I just want to be clear on that. Okay, all right, so that's what we're doing right now. We're being fair, we're being transparent, we're saying, okay, we want to make sure that we get this right before everybody gets into their emotions, and that's what we're doing right now. So once we get this wording right in terms of the resolution referring, beginning, not the process, but the start, then we're good to go with how this is written, correct? Is that fair?
With the amendment.
Yes, 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 that's what I'm saying, right.
Yes.
Right, so that when we all leave, okay. So, that's all I want to know is what's the end game? Because I'm not going to be here all night just trying to pick it apart for the sake of picking it apart. If the end game is the fact that, unfortunately, we made a mistake. We learn from our mistakes and we move forward. If part of learning that mistake is saying, let's get it right now with the amendments, then we should all be good with that. Is that fair? That's all.
So
Madam Mayor?
if I may, I'll accept Councilor Paterno's amendment to my amendment as, you know, as long as we know we're not going to be spending too much money without knowing for sure that this is going to be approved, or will be approved, or was approved.
Okay.
Madam Mayor? So
Councilor Paterno.
I want to be clear, I'm not sure what vote Councilor Gamble was referring to for 5-4, but the entire committee was unanimous in saying that Old Orchard Hill should be the temporary site. that other vote was about exploring a different site in the future, long range. So as far as the committee goes, all of us agreed that that's the best solution right now, temporary. Okay, thanks.
Counselor Kozakowski?
I'm good.
You're good. Okay, is everyone good? No more questions? Mr. Maniscalco, you understand what we're doing here?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
I'm afraid to say no.
Don't say no. Okay, so there's a motion on the table to accept the amended resolution that Counselor Lydecker had read, which is item 13D. All those in favor of the friendly amendments?
Point of order, there's no
Yes.
second.
Huh? No second?
Nobody seconded.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll second it.
Well, I wanted to approve the amendments first and then get those second. Oh, is that okay?
Don't the amendments need to be seconded?
Was the first seconded? The first reading of this seconded?
I think so.
Do we have a second on this first reading of this?
I believe I seconded it, Madam Mayor.
You did? Okay. So we have a first and a second on the first reading of this. And now we have a motion on the floor to accept the amended resolution. Is there a second to accept the amended resolution? Second. Counselor Gamble seconding the amended resolution, correct? All those in favor of the amended resolution? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. Any discussion? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Thank you. As amended. Correct? Good? Are you good or are you confused?
I'm confused.
Okay, go ahead.
So there was a motion, and then it was made and seconded, and then there was an amendment made. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the amendment needs to be motioned and seconded, or?
That's what we did.
Okay, so we voted on a amended resolution, not the amendment itself.
Correct, on the amended resolution.
Okay.
As presented with the friendly amendments as it was presented. Okay. With all the yes, we approved your amendments. Okay? Okay. It's okay. Okay.
That, my friends, is the process of municipal government.
Counselor Gamble, 13E, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution accepting the resignation of Stephanie Weintraub from the Agricultural Commission effective October 6, 2022. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby accepts with regret the resignation of Stephanie Weintraub from the Agricultural Commission effective October 6, 2022. And be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council extends its thanks to Stephanie Weintraub for the time she has dedicated to serving her community by her membership on the Agricultural Commission.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Counselor Gamble, 13F.
Resolution accepting the resignation of Stephanie Weintraub from the Human Relations Commission effective October 6, 2022. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby accepts with regret the resignation of Stephanie Weintraub from the Human Relations Commission effective October 6, 2022. And be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council extends its thanks to Stephanie Weintraub for the time she has dedicated to serving her community by her membership on the Human Relations Commission.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any? Thank you. The motion carries. Counselor Paterna, 13G.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a resolution accepting the resignation of Athena Lucalis from the Energy Committee effective June 13th, 2022. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby accepts with regret the resignation of Athena Lucalis from the Energy Committee effective June 13th, 2022. And be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council would like to thank Athena Lucalis for the time she has dedicated to serving her community while on the Energy Committee.
Is there a second? Any discussion?
Madam Mayor, yes, I'd just like to give some personal thanks to Athena. She has been involved for many years. I think it's 8 years on that committee and put in a lot of work. So I want to extend my thank you to her.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Counselor Evans, 13H.
13H, resolution accepting the resignation of Mary Justine Hockenberry from the Human Relations Committee effective September 9, 2022. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby accepts with regret the resignation of Mary Justine Hockenberry from the Human Relations Committee effective September 9, 2022. And be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council would like to thank Mary Justine Hockenberry for her dedication to serving the community while on the Human Relations Committee.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Item 13I, myself, resolution accepting the mayoral appointment of Steve Lewis as a member of the Energy Committee to fill the unexpired term of Athena Lukellis and postpones consideration of this motion until the Town Council's next regularly scheduled meeting. Be it resolved that I, the mayor of the town of South Windsor, hereby appoint Steve Lewis as a member of the Energy Committee to fill the unexpired term of Athena Lukellis and postpones consideration of this motion. There is no postponement. This is a mayoral appointment, so there should be no postponement. I'm appointing Mr. Lewis to the Energy Committee because it is a subcommittee of the council. So I'm appointing him to the Energy Committee to fill Athena's spot. Councilor Gamble.
Thank you. Well, you've sort of changed the direction a little bit, but since Mr. Lewis has sat here for the last hour and a half, I didn't know if you wanted to get up and say something or
Please.
or had anything
Please.
you wanted to contribute. So
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Councilor
you've been so patient with us. So, and congratulations. Thank you.
I know you have a lot more important things to do, but I appreciate the opportunity to be here and for your consideration of me serving on the Energy Committee. It would be a great privilege. I've been a resident of South Windsor for 20 years. Previously, I've actually served as an alternate on ZBA quite a while ago. Spent most of my time as a volunteer in scouting outside of my professional work in the insurance industry. And I have a very strong interest in energy policy and in energy efficiency, both in my personal life with solar, EVs, heat pumps, et cetera, already all in my home. But I'm also a member of the Sierra Club of Connecticut. I'm a volunteer on their legislative committee. I've been on that committee for quite a number of years, and I've been focused on energy policy advocacy at the state level. I'm very familiar with what's going on with the Inflation Reduction Act and all of the different things that are going on with DEEP and PURA and what are the opportunities we might have to do here in South Windsor. You've done great work on the Energy Committee. That the idea that we're going to be 100% electricity for the town coming from solar is fantastic, and so it would be a real privilege for me to serve on this committee, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. So all those, is there a second for the mayoral appointment? It's mayoral, all those in favor of the mayoral appointment of Mr. Lewis of the Energy Committee? Yes, aye, thank you. None opposed, so that carries. Number 14, passenger ordinance. Deputy Mayor King, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution adopting amendments to the Health Department Ordinance Number 218, Chapter 50, Articles 5-10. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby adopts an amendment to Ordinance Number 218, Chapter 50, Articles 5-10 as shown in the attached Exhibit B.
Is there a second? And is there any discussion? We've already discussed this with our health department. Who came to us? Councilor Kozakowski.
Yeah. No, thank you. I just wanted to thank the town manager and the health department staff for bringing this forward to us. I think this is a great example of marrying best practices with the law. So I want to thank them for that.
Thank you, Kozakowski. Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco, for bringing this forward, with the health department bringing this forward. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Item 15 is a public input on any matter. Recognized by me, you come to the lectern. Give your name and address. Speaker shall avoid any personal attacks or impugning or alleging an improper motive to any persons. The speaker may address the council on any item. The speaker shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on any matter to the council?
Hi, Craig Zimmerman, 5A Amato Drive. Just have 3 comments now, probably a few more at a later meeting. I just think accuracy and details are important. So number one, recently it appears there's a number of questions about the accuracy, I guess, of the student population estimates that we used for the schools. And I would just ask anybody who has any questions, I know the town manager probably can't respond, but my assumption is that Dr. Carter's presentation as part of the quad meeting is on the town website. If it is, I would just ask people who have questions, that's probably a good first place to start. Part of the problem sometimes when we have public discussions, not at council meetings, but in other areas, is people share information thinking and hear about information thinking that it's accurate when sometimes it's not. So I would go right to the source, number one. Number two, today, and again, just to be completely accurate, there was discussion about the fact that we've added in the planning a classroom at Pleasant Valley. And I just want to be clear that we're moving a district-wide program that's currently housed at Eli Terry to Pleasant Valley. They're bringing 6 to 8 students to PV. The reason for this is so that we can have 20-something students in a classroom at Eli Terry. So it's an Eli Terry problem that we're fixing by moving the problem to PV. I don't really want to read tomorrow that the estimates for PV are already wrong and we need a new classroom at PV. That is not the case. And then I just had a question, and again, you probably can't answer because you probably have the same rules we do, but I didn't hear if there was a planned location for the splash pad at Nevers Park. And if there is a planned location, that might be helpful to the public because that's an awful big park. And probably as we speak, someone is commenting about using parts of Nevers Park. And if we're putting it where I think it probably is, they can save their time. So that might be, if somebody does know the planned location, might be something that you might want to share before we leave if possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the council concerning any matter? Anyone else from the public that would like to speak to the council on any matter?
Thank you. Alan Cavagnaro, 83 Pine Knob Drive. Just wanted to check in. I think I spoke about this a couple months ago. I've talked to a few town councilors about this, and even you, Mr. Maniscalco. Just curious about the status of the drafting language of Fair Rent Commission. I know I've asked a lot of people about it. It means a lot to me. Worked on the housing committee this year in the spring, saw it get passed, talked to a lot of people that it would impact not only in South Windsor but across the state. I'm just hoping that there's progress on that. But also if there is progress on that, I know Councilor Kozakowski mentioned this a while ago, having it be a housing and fair rent commission. It could deal with aspects that planning and zoning deals with. It alleviates some of the work that we have, and we could sort of collaborate. So yeah, that's all I have. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis?
Different subject. Just wanted to say I fully support the idea of the study for the Scantic River boat launch and Linear Park as a scout leader. I would love to see us be able to put canoes in on the Scantic River, and I think it would be a great asset to the town, so thank you.
And there's plenty of Eagle Scouts coming up that can do projects, I think. Sorry, just dropping a little bug there. Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the council on any matter? Good evening, Mr. Edwards.
Good evening. Good evening. That works. Testing. Hi, Dan Edwards, 131 Hilton Drive. I'd like to commend Councilor Leidecker and Councilor Kozakowski for helping everyone take a step back today, and let's figure out figuring out what the legalese and also the practical planning aspects were relative to the Orchard Hill. And I don't know if it was a issue. I think you maybe had what happened last year with the referendum in mind, when the planning and zoning sent unfavorable recommendation, and then the town council just overruled it. And I don't know, maybe that was the reason that it was initially worded, but I'm happy that you guys are here and that you said, guys, let's take a step back. It's a smart move, right? It really does get back to citizen and Chairman Zimmerman's comments about transparency, right? People don't like to think that there's something, or there's wool being, pulled over their eyes. And, sitting here in the audience with a member of the Planning and Zoning, Planning and Zoning sitting behind me, it was kind of funny because, he didn't, the facial expressions, right, are everything, and I didn't seem to see as much of a concern with timing that the two folks on the side of the mayor seem to express. So anyway, transparency is key, and thanks again for helping everyone take a step back. It's the right move.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Is anyone else here this evening that'd like to speak to the council on any matter? Anyone going last time? Anyone from the public would like to speak to the council on any matter? Not seeing anyone. Moving on to item 16, communications from the council. Is there any communications from the council? Okay, okay. Oh,
Just in terms of the splash pad, it'll be going by the Boundless Playground, I think.
I was going to ask you that,
There
Mr.
you go.
Maniscalco. Can you give me a second? Okay. Two things that I have. One is the splash pad and the location of that, which is near the Boundless Playground. Thank you. And that would also help us to be able to get a fence around that area. Awesome. Which I've been asking for. The other thing is with the communication with the council, did you notice any change to the agenda and the format? What did you notice, Councilor Kazakowski?
The format was modified a little bit, I think, to smooth out some of the transitions.
Okay, I'd like to make a report with our clerk of the council about our clerk of the council, Miss Amanda. She's doing a fantastic job, and her and I have been working together, especially with creating the agenda. As you can see, before every agenda item, you will see the council member's name. So as you peruse through the agenda, you know which item you're going to be reading, and everyone else will know who's reading what very quickly and easily, so you can get right to it. So that way we're not behind the agenda item, but right up there at front on the agenda item. So she's been working wonderfully. And again, this is Amanda Poma, who is the clerk of the council, and is available to anyone for our boards and commissions or the public who needs to get to the council can definitely go through Amanda on our town website, and you can also call the town hall. So that was the communications. Is there anything else from anyone else for communications?
Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
I don't think I heard. Can you just say again where the splash pad is going in Nevers Park?
Next to the Boundless Playground. Do you know where that is?
Okay.
Nevers
I do. I've been there
roadside.
quite a few times.
Okay.
I'm just trying to envision like where.
Mr. Maniscalco, is it close to, down by the tree line and over towards Nevers Road, correct?
Yes, correct.
Down the hill from the, right?
Near the swing set, right?
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on, now more communications. Item number 17, executive session. We have none, of which we added the word none. And item 18 is adjournment. Do we have an adjournment? Second? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.